Good evening. As Pastor said, my name is Jim Unrau. And about a month ago, Pastor asked me if I would be willing to give a message at one of the Lenten services. And the biggest issue is, what am I going to talk about? What's the subject need to be? And I said, well, give me a couple of days. And as time went on, I thought I could probably put something together. And so here we are tonight, and I got to thinking about, believe it or not, New Year's was almost 2 months ago already. And it's kind of a tradition at New Year's to New Year's resolutions. And used to be a popular one was to quit smoking, and now there's not very many people that smoke anymore, so that's kind of by the wayside. But some people might say, well, I'm going to lose 10, 15, 20 pounds, or I'm going to exercise 5 to 6 days a week and see how that works. Well, today we're at Lenten time, and people then come out and say, well, I'm going to give something up for Lent. And a lot of times on Fridays they'll give up red meat. Maybe give up soda pop for the period of Lent. Give up alcohol, specialty coffees, whatever you might think of. Today, I guess I'm asking for us to give up some of our time. Give up time. Maybe we could give up 1 to 2 hours a week. Maybe 1 to 2 hours every 2 weeks. Maybe even just 1 to 2 hours every month. And yes, we all think we're busy. We've got family, we've got kids at home. They take a lot of time. Jobs take a lot of time. Us old retired people, we don't want to give any of our time up because this is why I retired. But I think I could give up a football game watching on the television or a basketball game. I know I play way too many computer games on the computer. And I know a lot of people play way too much on their cell phones. So I think we could find some time. Now, what could we do with this time? I would encourage you to find someone that is struggling in life. It might be somebody that has lost their husband or their wife. Maybe they lost a child. Maybe they're going through a sickness, cancer treatments. Maybe they've gone through a divorce, or they're just plain shut in at home. But I would recommend find someone that's, and if you can't, I'm sure if you'd reach out to Pastor Ben, Pastor Eric, and they could, they'd be more than willing to probably direct you to someone. Like I say, coworkers, retired coworkers. There's usually someone out here that's looking to be looked after, I guess. And one thing, you're going to have to invite yourself into their lives. Remember that. Invite yourself into their lives. They're not going to come out and say, hey, I got troubles, come on over. You know, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to invite yourself. And how did I get started doing this? I've been doing it for a number of years. The first individual that I did it for was Harley Rouse. And I got to know Harley when I worked at the elevator in Ruthven. And he fed cattle, and I sold cattle feed. So we got to know each other quite well. And built a relationship up and enjoyed him. And then he moved into town here, and he went to church at Bethany. And I was there too, and we got to know each other better. And then he was diagnosed with cancer and started cancer treatments. And like a lot of people know, that the disease is bad, but the treatments are worse. And I asked if I could come over and visit him, and he was good with that. And one thing I have always noticed when I come to visit somebody, the broad smile but the twinkle in their eyes. The first Sunday that I visited with him, we were both had been farmers at one time, and we had a lot in common. It was easy to talk to. And that Sunday evening, there was going to be a program on Iowa Public Television, and it was about the 80s and the farm depression back in the 80s. Some of you may remember that. Harley did, I did. And I said, Harley, you going to watch that? And he said, no, I lived it. I don't need to watch it again. And yeah, I understood. But as time went on and we visited, one of the neater things that I would do with him, I said, you want to go on a road trip today on a Saturday? And so we'd go for a ride, and one of the rides that we'd go to was, some of you maybe remember Kurt Berkland, Gene Berkland, that was a member here. Kurt built a new cattle confinement, and I said, you want to go look at it? And he said, yeah, that'd be fun. And we went over there and spent a good share of a Saturday morning looking at it. Went to Kent Christensen's one time to look at his facilities. And then there's another big cattle yard south of Everly, north and of Sutherland, called City View. And they feed up, I think, over 10,000 head of dairy cattle. And what fun we had. What fun we had. And we got to talk to the manager, and Harley had all kinds of questions, and it was very entertaining for both of us. The one thing, like I said, I can always remember the twinkle in his eye. The next person that I started visiting with was Bernard Fairchild. I didn't know Bernard very well. We went to church together at Bethany. But Pastor Meyer at the time, he was working with Stephen Ministers, and he asked if I would like to meet with Bernard. Like I said, I didn't know him very well. And Pastor Meyer said, well, he likes horses. And boy, that's not my game. I knew which end to feed and which end to clean up after, but that was about it. And as we got to know each other, he was a farmer, and I was an old farm boy too. And he told me about his horses, and he had one horse called Dandy Seeker. It was a purebred quarter horse. And never seen the horse. He had passed before that, but he said it helped him through the 80s of farming too. That horse was a valuable horse. He used it as a stud horse. It was a stallion. He bred a lot of different horses for people with it, and it was he was very proud of it. Bernard, if you knew, he was suffering from a form of ALS and had a lot of mobility problems. After a couple of visits, I learned a lot more about horses. Very interesting these gentlemen were always interesting to listen. You know, a lot of times you didn't have to do the talking. They were more than willing to share their life stories with you. And there again, what would we do sometimes? The road trip again was always fun. We would go out to Jones Dairy. I helped them a fair amount, and Harley and I went out to Jones Dairy too. I said bring that up and watched them chop silage several times. And it was always very interesting. Took Bernard out there, and he always enjoyed it. We might even just go out and check out the geese out at Stolly's Park, see if they came for the spring or left for the fall. One of the neatest things that I did with Bernard, there was a book wrote, Tuesdays with Maury. I think there was even a movie made with that. And, well, it was Tuesdays with Bernard for coffee. And we would go to the Sisters Cafe. We'd always go in the back way. It was easier for Bernard to get around with his cane. Or his walker. And we'd come in the back way, and the first time it was interesting. I thought we'd come in and go to a table right away. First table, Bernard knew somebody, or they knew him, and 5-10 minutes of visiting. And next table the same way. I finally went and got a table myself and got a pot of coffee and 2 cups, and what fun. There again, the smile. Twinkle in their eyes. He always knew when I was driving up. I had an old gray Olds Cutlass. No exhaust. So he knew it was me. He says, "You're here with your Cadillac again." And then I got to be in the summer, different times, several years of this, but I had a garden and I'd ride my bike by his place. He was 3 blocks down from where I lived, and I'd just pop in, and Arlene let me in, and she knew that I was coming, or I'd help myself to the cups and the coffee pot, and we'd have a good visit again. It was always very interesting. Told you about his dog, or his horse named Dandy Seeker. He had a dog named Chip. He must have thought a lot about him. The dog was in a farm accident, and he figured he needed to probably put the dog down, and the vet talked him out of it. He says, "I think we can save this dog, but it'll be a 3-legged dog." And when Bernard retired, he moved into town, and so did the dog. The dog came to town with him. And in the fall of the year, I would be helping maybe Jones Dairy harvest, Rod Dillard running grain cart, and maybe I'd miss a week or two. And if we had time, I might call him during the day. And he said, "I'd be thinking about you. How's harvest going?" Very curious. It was always neat. And then Jones Dairy out there started to build a new addition, a new parlor. And he's always curious about it. And I was always hoping that I could bring him out there and show him the new one. But the good Lord had other ideas for Bernard, and he passed away before it got opened. But there again, the smile, the twinkle in their eyes. And both Colleen and Arlene are here tonight. And I think they enjoyed it just as much as I did, and their husbands. The next person, I think you all knew him, Del Broxius. I thought I knew Del. Knew him from church, knew him from the nursery, the greenhouse. I'd go back and talk to him if he was in his office, and I thought I knew him, but not until I started visiting him. There was a lot of things about him. Neat man, very neat man. He grew up around May City. He had some stories about May City. He was a pin setter for the May City bowling alley. I don't think it had more than 3 lanes, but that was back in the day when you had people set the pins, not pin setters. And he talked about the big burly farmers that would throw the ball so hard, and there was no place to hide back there. And so he thought he'd get even with one particular guy that really was a hard thrower. And he said, I took the pin home, and I drove a nail in it, and I filed off the other end and sharpened it up. So it was kind of a 2-headed nail in there. He said, I brought it to the next night I was setting pins. And when this guy come up, he said, I reached for the pin, and I slammed it into the floor. And when the guy bowled, he had to hit that pin direct or it wouldn't fall. And the one night, the pin fell halfway over. And so he walked out the back door as the farmer was walking down the lane. I don't think he ever set pins since then, you know. One of the first times getting to visit more with Dell, my mother was a resident of the Hartley nursing home, and so was Sharon. And when Joan and I would go to visit my mother, along about 2:30, here comes Dell down the hall, pushing the wheelchair with Sharon. And we'd go out, and poor Sharon didn't know who we were anymore, but big smile on her face, but so was Dell. Well, then I started visiting Dell at his home, and another thing about Dell, a lot of people probably didn't realize this, but his mother passed away when he was, I think, 15, 16 years of age, and I felt he had a pretty good relationship with his father after that. And Dell was a pilot. He had his own airplane. I think he said he kind of maybe knew how to fly an airplane before he knew how to drive a car. You know, he was a neat man, and very enjoyable. One of the last times, or not one, the last time that I visited with Dell, Joan was out of town that afternoon, and it got to be along about 5 o'clock, and I thought, well, I better get home here. I didn't have to get home for supper, but and Dell says, it's time for my pain medication. It's 5 o'clock. Okay. Well, it turned out that pain medication at 5 o'clock turned out to be Black Velvet and Coke. And he asked if I'd stay, and I said, yeah. How fitting it was. That was the last time I seen him. He passed away the next day or two. But I'll always remember that. Another thing with Dell was when I got ready to leave to go home, he'd say, Jim, I'd like to pray with you. It should have been maybe the other way around, but I should have been praying for him. But he was always so thankful that I came over, appreciative. And I tell him, you know, Dell, I got just as much out of this as you did. And I did with the same other 2 gentlemen, too. I got just as much out of it as they did. And there again, always the big smile, twinkle in their eyes. So at this season, I'm asking you to spend some time with a person that is needing some help. And I use the word spend like it's money. like it has value. When we spend our money, we spend it carefully, spend it on valuable things, use it wisely. Well, I'm saying to do this with your time, treat it like money, and use it wisely. So in closing tonight, do I miss these three gentlemen? You bet I do. Along with Dave Ferricks, Gene Berkland, and a gentleman named Doug Verdaska. They were all terminally ill. Wouldn't wish them to live another day on this earth. They're with God today. And I'll always remember them. But remember to invite yourselves into somebody else's life. So, thank you. Amen.